Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Multi-State Advanced Manufacturing Consortium sponsored Using Labor Market Intelligence to Strengthen Advanced Manufacturing Education webinar series. This webinar series seeks to build the capacity of college faculty and staff to use labor market intelligence to support education and training that is more responsive to industry skills demands and job seeker needs. Participants will be exposed to data tools and analytical approaches that will enhance their ability to answer numerous questions facing a diverse network of customers, including students, employers, college administrators, and funding providers. Today's webinar is titled, Using Data to Develop New and Adapt Existing Curriculum. This webinar was designed with curriculum planners in mind, but the information presented today will also be of interest to people who play other roles within their college. Before we start our presentation, let me first go through a few logistical items. All webinar participants are in listen-only mode, but there will be time at the end of the webinar for a question and answer session. If you have any questions for our instructor, feel free to type them in the questions box, which you'll see in the GoToWebinar interface. You can submit questions at any point during the webinar, but we'll hold them until the end of the presentation. I will go through the questions and read them out loud to our instructor. Again, feel free to submit questions at any point during the presentation. Now, please welcome our instructor, Hayden Springer. Hayden Springer serves as Manager for Technical Assistance and Training at CREC. She manages an array of economic and workforce development research and training programs. Hayden holds a Master's in Regional Planning from Cornell University. Hayden, I will now turn it over to you.
Okay, well, thanks, Lindsay, so much, and thanks, everyone, for participating today. Before I get started, I just want to take a few moments to tell you who we are. Again, like Lindsay mentioned, I work for the Center for Regional Economic Competitiveness. We're a 501c3 located in Arlington, Virginia, and we provide data-driven policy analysis as well as technical assistance to economic development, workforce development, and higher education institutions. In addition to that, we also provide professional association management services. And one of the associations that we manage is the Labor Market Information Institute. The Institute was established in 1994 and is now a membership network of state labor market information agencies as well as other professionals that delivers technical training, research, system support, and partnership facilitation. And so for this project, we are working together, CREC, with the Labor Market Information Institute to bring the M-SAMC schools data tools that they can use as well as the analytical capacity to help answer key questions that their customers might have, those being students, businesses, funders, and many others. So we designed this project by first conducting a number of interviews and site visits to M-SAMC schools, and those visits helped us identify 6 college faculty and staff categories or job functions. So we developed a number of different trainings as well as this webinar series with these 6 groups, which you see highlighted in red here, and tried to develop very specific webinars and training programs for each of them. So today we're going to address some issues and provide some tools that curriculum planners can use to assess current and future demand for different occupations and to try to be more prepared to interact with companies to help them understand their needs and then design programs that meet those needs. So the purpose specifically of these webinars is to introduce public data tools to help you do your job better. We're going to make you aware of a number of public data resources as well as, and their strengths as well as their shortcomings. And this particular webinar is all about providing you with information and tools to help you think through, should I establish new programs and should I continue supporting existing programs supported by what labor market information data is telling us. So our agenda for the day, we are going to talk just very briefly about the structure of job-related data. And then we're going to work through a scenario to answer these 4 questions here that you might often be asked to answer. So what other schools in my region are offering similar programs? What occupations are associated with this field of study? What's the current demand for jobs in these occupations? And will there be future demand for jobs in these occupations? I'll also briefly mention a few tools that CREC and the Institute are designing specifically for M-SAMC schools and give you some information about what's coming up next. So first, how are job-related data structured? So we'll talk a little bit about job titles versus occupations and a classification system that's used to help us organize occupational data. So in the world that we're all working in, we think of job titles and how do we train people to be prepared with the skills to do a certain job. When we're doing analysis about jobs, we're really looking at occupations. And the difference between the two is really that job titles are not always synonymous with the occupations they refer to. So they can vary widely within and between industries, and they may even require similar activities. Occupations describe a set of tasks that are standard across industries. So our data is really organized around occupations. In the previous webinar, our instructor Mark introduced the ONET autocoder, which can help you easily convert job titles into relevant occupation titles. And I've included the link again here at the bottom of this slide so you can revisit that. So just briefly, the Standard Occupation Classification System, or SOC, was developed by the federal government to provide a comprehensive way of organizing occupational data. And that data is standard across all workers and occupations. It's based on job duties, skills, education, and training. And it comes with 4 levels. So you've got a numbering system where the more digits that are added to a SOC code, the more specific the detail on a particular occupation becomes. So you have the major group, a minor group, a broad occupation, and a detailed occupation. These lists here, these are the 23 major occupation groups. And most of the occupations relevant to manufacturing are classified as either 17 architecture and engineering occupations, 51 your production occupations, and some under 49 the installation, maintenance, and repair occupations. So this is just an example of how an occupation might be coded. So this is an example of electromechanical technicians. The major group that it falls under is 17, architecture and engineering. Then you add another digit to get to the minor group. Now you're down to drafters, engineering technicians, and mapping technicians. Add another digit, broad occupations, engineers and technicians, except drafters, and finally that last digit to get to electromechanical technicians. So we're going to work through a scenario today to answer the questions I read off earlier, and we're going to use TCAP Murfreesboro today. The scenario is that 2 important industry partners approach you. Both of the firms say they're struggling to find qualified welders. TCAP Murfreesboro used to have a large welding program, but it went a different way a number of years ago. Should TCAP Murfreesboro establish a new welding program? So again, those key questions are here on the screen. So we will start with trying to answer that first question, what other schools in my region offer similar programs? And a great resource for starting to find information on this is the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System, or IPEDS. So IPEDS is an online tool, and it compiles information from surveys that are conducted annually by the National Center for Education and Statistics from every single college, university, and technical and vocational institution that participates in federal student financial aid programs. So that's more than 7,500 schools participating in these surveys every year. And the information that's collected ranges from enrollment to program completions, graduation rates, faculty and staff, finances, institutional process, and student financial aid. So all of the information about programs in IPEDS is coded with a similar structure to the occupational structure I just introduced, the SOC code, and it's called the Classification of Instructional Programs, or SIP. And what SIP codes do are provide a standard taxonomy to describe different fields of study. And this way you can look at performance and all certain types of data across programs across schools. So you're able to see apples to apples what different schools are doing. Just like SOC, it's a hierarchical coding system, and the details it provides include a numeric code, a title, a definition, and a code crosswalk from previous updates. So the question here is, what is the zip code for a welding instructional program? So I'm just going to quickly run a demo so that you can see that. Let's jump to the internet here. So what you'll do to find a zip code is go to this website here, which is provided in the presentation, and go to Browse All Zip Codes. And then here you see you have a list, and this is very close to what you see in the standard occupation code. So what we're going to do today, because we care about welding programs, is go to Precision Production. Then we're going to go to 4805, so adding that additional digit, Precision Metalworking. And then we're going to select 480508, Welding Technology / Welder. And as you can see here, you get that code, you get the text title, a definition of what the program is, and you also, this is interesting, the program also provides advice on other SIP codes that you might want to look at that are similar. So for example, here, it's recommending that you also look at 15.0614, which is Welding Engineering Technology / Technician. So that is how you find a SIP code, and you're going to want to write that down for any type of further investigation you're going to use, because you can use that SIP code to get from one piece of information to the next using lots of different publicly available tools. So next, we're going to use a tool from IPEDS that's called the College Navigator. And this is a really useful tool for both college faculty and staff, for parents, and for students to get that information that IPEDS surveys collect in a way that's pretty digestible and usable. So the College Navigator, to give you a little bit of information before demoing this, excuse me. Okay, so the College Navigator, you can do lots of different searches. You can search by the name of the school, the state, the zip code, the radius to a particular location, information about programs and majors, and then award levels as well as institution type. So now I'm going to conduct a search using the College Navigator for, I want to know what schools have welding programs within 50 miles of TCAP Murfreesboro. So I'm asking that question to get a sense of, you know, who is my competition, or who is the market for this type of training already saturated. So what I'm going to do is use the zip code for TCAP Murfreesboro and type that in here. I'm going to select a 50-mile radius. I'm also, for our purposes, going to select a 2-year institution type, and then I'm going to browse by program. So this pulls up a number of different options. You can do a text search. You can also do a similar just drop-down search if you don't really know exactly what the term might be. So I'm going to precision production. Then I'm going to go for precision metalworking. And then I'm going to select welding technology welder, and I'm going to click add here. That adds it to the search fields, and then I'm going to click show results. And as you can see, this shows that there are 5 schools within a 50-mile radius of TCAP Murfreesboro that are offering welding degrees or credentials. So what I'm going to do, what I want to know now is I want to know some information about those programs. So I'm going to select Miller-Mott Technical College here. And then, so that pulls up all of this information about the school based on what they have to report annually to IPES. So if you look under programs and majors, you'll see that welding technology and welder is highlighted for you under precision. And then this number here, the 45, shows you that the school produces 45 completers with a 1 to less than 2 year certificate. So that's the type of degree they're offering. And you could do this for all the schools that popped up in that list, which would help you compare completion rates and see whether these schools are producing the number of graduates in demand by your industry partners that are coming to you. So that way you can kind of assess if it's a good investment for your school to establish a new program, or if it makes sense to help that, direct that industry partner to other resources. Note that the completion rates are just one indicator to consider, and to make an informed decision, they need to be combined with other pieces of information. So now we're going to look at, we're going to continue on, and we're going to look at the question of what occupations are associated with this field of study. You want to know what the range of occupations is that someone that gets a welding degree or certificate might be able to do beyond just specifically being a welder, because we know that market and demand changes, so we want to make sure that people have skills that are versatile and can be transferable. So the Occupational Information Network, or ONET, is a good tool for finding information on the different knowledge, skills, and abilities and tools and technologies that are required of a person to perform a particular occupation and thus a job. So there are lots of resources in ONET, and we're certainly not going to cover all of them today, but I do want to show you one tool in ONET that allows you to take that zip code that we just found for welding technology and welders and easily crosswalk that to occupations so you can see what those knowledge, skills, and abilities are that a program would need to provide. And that tool is called the crosswalk here, where this red circle is. So the crosswalk, when you go to that page, there are all these different options for fields you can fill in. What we want to use the zip code is the education field. So it's search for codes or titles from the 2010 SIP program. So in this case, you would type our code 48.0508 into this field here and click search. When you hit that, you're going to get a window that looks just like this, and they're going to be typically a handful of different occupations, which are all highly related, that you have an option to pick from. So for example, when we search for welding technology / welder, the comparable ONET code and occupation you'll see is a little bit different. So you go from 48.0508 to one of these options here, 51-4121.06, and then there are a couple of other options. So what you want to do is basically you're going to have to use your best judgment and pick the one that most closely mirrors what you're trying to find out more about. So then when you click one of those, you're going to get a whole host of information in one page about that particular occupation and what it takes to perform well in that occupation. And I'd just like to point out, when you're on the page, you can jump to any section in the file, so you can jump from tasks to tools, knowledge, skills, and abilities, and many other categories just by quickly clicking in this menu bar here. Something when you're thinking about investing in a new program or strengthening an existing one is this tools and technologies issue. You're trying to think about what resources can, for example, TCAP Murfreesboro bring to bear. What among these tools and technologies does my school already have for a welding program, and what would we have to go out and purchase? And what's the dollar value behind that? What would that cost me? You might also consider the work activities and detailed work activities and look at your curriculum and see what's already being covered. Those are also good ways to see how you can combine what you already have with new things you're going to need to invest in, whether it be tools and technologies, faculty, classroom space, and so on and so forth. So the crosswalk tool can be a very useful option for you. One other thing I'd like to point out before we move on is that one of the options in your toolbar here in ONET is related occupations. And this is how you can quickly get to that question of what other occupations would someone with a welding degree potentially be suited for. So when you click on related occupations, it's going to pull up a list of occupations that have similar features in terms of the knowledge, skills, and abilities, tasks, tools, and so on that somebody with a welding degree might also consider. So again, if you click one of these, you'll be able to easily access all of that information that you accessed for the initial job you were searching for, in this case, welders, cutters, and welding fitters. Okay. So next, what is the current demand for jobs in this occupation? You may or may not be familiar with something called real-time labor market information. This is becoming more and more popular, and it's what is it? It's a proprietary service. How's it collected? I'm going to talk just about that and show you who some of the major vendors are. Okay, so what is it? So like I said, it's a proprietary service that mostly for-profit companies provide, and it's a technology that aggregates online job postings from thousands of pre-existing data sources or job boards into one database. And the benefit of it is that it can give you a comprehensive picture of what hiring is going on right now in the labor market, with some biases, which I'll explain in just a moment. The ways you as a curriculum planner could use it is to learn about the types of jobs that local employers are trying to fill, comparing skills and demand to your current curriculum to see what might be missing and what you already have, and to identify companies for outreach. So just a little bit more about how real-time LMI works. So to collect those thousands of job postings and organize them, the companies or the data vendors use a spidering technology that goes out through all of the websites and funnels information about particular jobs into one place. Then the company goes through a process called deduplication, where they remove job posts that were posted on multiple websites for a single job. That way you make sure that you're only seeing one true job versus just duplicate ads that may be out there on multiple sites. Then they do some cleanup. They remove jobs with inappropriate content. And then they go through a coding process. And at the beginning of the webinar, we talked about the standard occupational classification coding. So as you can see, they do assign a stock code to the job title. They pull out the company name and location. They also provide an industry code, which my colleague Marty is going to talk about in the next webinar. And then they identify the job tasks as well as benefits. So the benefits of real-time LMI, it's timeliness. It reflects the hiring that's going on right now in the labor market. The data goes back typically about 120 days to present, so it is a short-term tool to understand what's going on at present. So it's not based on projections far into the future. It does reflect in-demand experience levels, education requirements, and skills, and there's no active employer participation required, meaning that employers are already going out and putting these job postings up. So there isn't an additional body going and knocking on their door and asking them to provide any information and spend time on that they weren't doing already themselves. It does have some significant limitations that you should know about. While they reflect new hiring activity, they don't reflect overall employment. And so that's something that needs to be kept in mind when you're looking at occupations and whether they, are good occupations to direct students to go into. So you need to be looking at overall employment as well. They also don't reflect 100% of new hiring activities. A lot of lower skilled jobs often don't get posted online. They may be going through newspapers or word of mouth and other avenues. So you don't want to overlook the fact that this doesn't provide a universal explanation of what's going on, although it is very useful. And one should also be wary of the salary estimates because they're very difficult, you know, to determine whether they're accurate. A lot of companies don't even put that type of information online, so you just have to be careful when you see that type of information in real-time labor market information. These are some of the common vendors. There are a few others, but these are the large ones of real-time LMI. We just wanted to share that with you. And what I'd like to do is explore real-time LMI through the Tennessee website. Some states, their labor market information agencies have actually purchased from those vendors that were on the last slide, have purchased labor market information, the real time, and embedded it in their own websites. And Tennessee is in fact one of the states that has done that. So I'm just going to go ahead and take us to the website. So this is Tennessee's state workforce development and labor market information site. So the first place you would want to go is right here to the labor market information homepage. Okay, so this is their homepage. And then you want to look under historic data analysis, advertised job data by occupation, and then job by occupation. Now you can look at real-time labor market information, at least in Tennessee, and a lot of other states in the consortium have similar sites at a number of different levels. So you can look at the state level, but you can also look at other area groupings. So let's just go ahead and look at the area that TCAT Murfreesboro falls in. So I am going to select the local workforce investment area category. That's going to give me a few options. I'm going to select LWIA 9. And then I'm going to keep the time period as it is. So the time period, the default here is June 2015, and that gets updated monthly. And then I'm going to, I want to know for today, I want to know about those welding jobs. So I'm going to change this multiple occupations to the welding occupation. And the way I'm going to do that is go to the occupation by occupation code. And because I've been to iPads to get the zip code, because I've taken that zip code and entered it into the crosswalk in ONET to get that ONET code, I'm able to easily get to the exact information on that particular job without having to search much, just by typing in the number from ONET. And then I'm just going to hit search. Okay, and that brings me to what I can see here for welders, cutters, and welding fitters. So we're going to select that and click there. And what I can see here is a job openings table. I can see that there right now in the LWIA 9, there are 45 job openings posted. The mean or average salary for those jobs in that workforce area is $31,618 per year. And the percent openings with a wage, that's basically telling you that 31% of the job openings will include information about the wage. But these two pieces here, the job openings and the mean value, are your useful ones. If you want to see exactly what the postings are, you can export all of the information there into an Excel file. Also want to point out that you can look at a job area distribution match, and you can see with these colors it's telling you how many welding jobs there are in different areas, and you can just scroll over and see what we're talking about here in terms of the number of jobs that are available. So that's how you can access real-time LMI through one of the state's websites. And for those of you who are interested in finding real-time on your sites, I do have a slide later that has links to where you can find that for your state. So finally, our fourth question, will there be future demand for jobs in these occupations? You can start to answer that question by looking at occupational employment projections. So occupational employment projections, they're produced by the Bureau of Labor Statistics at the national level and by state labor market information agencies at both the state and sub-state geographic levels. States produce both 10-year projections as well as 2-year projections. We're just going to focus on the 10-year ones today. But projections are really useful for identifying existing skills in the labor market. You can see how specific skills are being used by different industries. You can find gaps in the supply and demand. And it's a good way to see how multiple occupations are doing over time so that you can help students identify alternatives in terms of a career pathway. There are some limitations that you should know about. They will not predict a business cycle change or a recession. This is because projections always assume overall economic growth. And so if there is a change that's unpredictable, like a recession where the overall economy backslides, then your projections will be off. But generally, they are a really good starting point for starting to see what opportunities might be available to people in your programs, whether new or existing, in the near and longer term. So again, I just want to show you how to access occupational projections through one website. This is, again, we're going to use Tennessee. But the information you would find from your state will be organized very similarly. So the question is demand for welders in PCAT Murfreesboro service area expected to increase or decrease over the next 10 years? So we are going to go back to the Tennessee homepage for LMI. This is the homepage. We're going to go to the LMI home. And this time we're going to look under current data analysis. And we're going to look at occupation-specific data. From there, we're going to look at employment and wage data. And then we're going to look at employment and future employment outlook. So again, we're going to want to set our filters so that we can look at the area where TCAP Murfreesboro is located. So we're going to use workforce regions again. We're going to go to LWIA 9. And then we are going to search occupations by occupation code, just like we did for real time. We're going to type in that same ONET code. And then click search. Select our welders, cutters, and welding fitters. And then you are provided with some information on what the occupation is going to look like over the next 10 years. You will notice that the years are 2012 to 2022 because it takes a long time to collect data in a state, let alone a nation. There is a lag in the projections, but the next series of projections that will be the 2014 to 2020 projections will come out this year. And they're still pretty accurate, you know, barring recessions, which have happened recently. Even though the projections are a few years delayed, they're still a really good, generally a really good indicator of what's happening with an industry. So as you can see here, in LWIA 9, the welding occupation, the estimated employment in 2012 was 680 people, and that's a total of all occupations there. And then the projected employment by 2022 will be 860. So you're going to see growth by 180 jobs. And that's a 2.2% annual growth rate. So it is positive growth. You can also see here a little sunshine that says bright outlook nationally. That means that this occupation, not only in LWIA 9, but across the country, is expected to grow in the next 10 years. It's also considered a green occupation. Green occupations are, they were newly defined during the American Recovery Act, ARA, and it is some information that is provided through ONET now, as well as sources like this. You can also see the distribution by area. So if you wanted to compare how the jobs in the LWIA you're in compare to others in the state, you can see you know, how you fit within that broader picture. So as I mentioned, every state, and especially with projections, you're able to access those through your state LMI agency website, and we'll send this presentation around. But these are links for all of the M-SAMC partner schools to their state's LMI website, to their projections, as well as real-time labor market information sources if the state has them. And in a lot of cases, as you can see here, they do. So that's exciting. So before we wrap up, just a few things to remember about these data. All publicly available data offer an important starting point. They have to be considered as, you know, one element of your decision making. so they're not a panacea. Local employers, as you know, are often the best source of information about wage data and skills. The surveying of employers can be time-consuming and expensive, but it may be necessary. And then unless you're doing a survey, proprietary data that is fed into the real-time LMI uses data that's publicly available as a foundation, but it is very difficult to know what's going on behind the scenes with the organization and analysis of that data. So these are just the key tools we've covered today: SIP, the College Navigator, crosswalks, real-time LMI, and occupational projections. So finally, just want to mention a few things that the CREC and LMI Institute are doing in addition to introducing publicly available tools. And those things that we're doing include developing a new dashboard, which will be a single web portal for M-SAMC schools to look up demographic, industry, and workforce data for their area. This just gives you a sense of what it's going to look like, and there are going to be different pages for each of the M-SAMC schools that will pull up all sorts of useful information with just the click of a button. We're also working to develop an electronic performance-based objective database where you'll be able to download those PBO check sheets, where schools will be able to systematically collect data directly from employers about their skills needs, and that will help you be able to align your course materials to those needs that are being expressed by the industries that you directly serve. There's also a career pathways tool under development, and finally some instructional videos that are these really short 2-minute clips that will show you how to quickly access key pieces of information like an average wage for a particular occupation. Last, we are holding a in-person course. It's really designed for corporate college representatives, but anyone who's dealing directly with industry partners would probably benefit from participating, including someone in a curriculum planner role. And we will be holding that course next at Bridge Valley, then Spartanburg, and then at Henry Ford College. All M-SAM schools are invited to participate regardless of the location. So you can get in touch with us if you have questions about that. And we have 2 further webinars that are coming up, which the next is going to be about using data to develop grant applications, and then the next one about determining the impact of demographic trends on colleges. As the tools are rolled out, we will also record demonstration webinars to make sure everyone's able to use those tools effectively. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. We'll just give a few minutes for those to come in, and then we'll conclude our webinar.
Thank you, Hayden. We will now begin the question and answer portion of the webinar, as Hayden said. Just a heads up that we have received a few questions regarding the availability of this presentation after the webinar. The full webinar and presentation will be made available on the M-SAMC website. We will be sending out a follow-up email to all attendees with links to where you will be able to download these materials. All right, well, if we don't have any questions right now, that is fine, and we will both be available for questions after if you think of anything down the road. The next session of this webinar series will be on using data to develop compelling grant applications. And this webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, August 18th from 2 to 3 p.m. and that's East Coast time. A formal announcement will be made available in the coming weeks. Thank you again for joining us, and this concludes today's webinar. Have a great day, everyone.